right. Welcome, welcome. And we are live. We are live for another episode of Wealth Matters. And I'm so excited this afternoon to have with us Master Sergeant. I was like, wow. Okay, Master Sergeant Rachel Gerald. Welcome to the show, Rachel. Welcome to the podcast. We are excited to have you. Most of you know by now that here at Wealth Matters, we are bringing you the best in financial literacy because wealth matters to and for the kingdom. God spoke earlier this year, right at the onset of coronavirus, that we need to be like the sons of Issachar who have understanding of the times. And if we understand that we are living in a new era of history, we understand that we need finances like never before. One of the things he said is that coronavirus is not the end of the world. You know, when it first broke out, everybody was like, oh, the end of the world is coming. And he said, this is not the end, because the Bible tells us in Matthew 24 that, this is the beginning of a era. And the end is not going to come until the gospel of the kingdom is taken to all nations. And so we need to be focused on taking the gospel of the kingdom. And he spoke and he said, you also have to be focused on the finances necessary to do so. And so that was the impetus for Wealth Matters. That's why we started doing this. And it's been such a blessing, such an incredible journey. And part of that blessing is to meet people like you, Rachel. And so I'm glad to have you with us. Last week, you were on with us last week, even when Rob Wilson was with us. And so, we had a lively discussion.
Yes.
The last 2 weeks, we talked about BELT, building an economic life together. We talked about various and sundry things, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful time. And so we're going to continue our discussion with you today. And for those of you that are watching, I want you to make sure that you take note of the podcast website. You can visit that website for follow-up questions and to email us if you have questions for Rachel beyond the time that we have together. And you can support the podcast right from that website as well. So I want everybody to be reminded of that. All right, Rachel, welcome. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself and just let the listening audience know why you're uniquely qualified to speak to them about Wealth Matters?
Yes, thank you, Pastor Reese, for having me on.
Absolutely.
My name is Rachel Gerald. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a retired United States Marine Master Sergeant.
Master Sergeant.
Yes.
And a grandmother. Wow.
Yes. I'm also a financial manager, financial assistant. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business administrator. I'm a jack of all trades. And I think what equips me to be qualified to just go and teach other people is that I believe that God has equipped me. And there's a calling on my life to help others learn how to properly manage their personal finances. It's more than just getting out of debt. It's more than just having a savings and doing a budget. So once you have that full concept, you're able to change generations and break those generational financial curses that has been haunting us for generations and generations. I love what I do. I'm the business owner of Personal Financial Change here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where we go out and we teach classes here at City Hall. We go throughout the city, we go throughout the state, teaching classes, giving seminars, and just showing people that if little old Rachel from Marion, South Carolina,
That's my home girl, y'all. That's my South Carolina home girl. That's my home girl right there.
Yes. If I can do it, and God has allowed me to do it, anything is possible for those who choose to believe.
Well said, well said. And I'm so proud of you and so excited about what you are doing. And one of the things that I want the listening audience to know is that you paid off $179,625 of consumer debt. You paid that off as of 2015. just before you retired
Yes.
from the military.
It made
Uh,
retirement so much more enjoyable.
I'm sure that it did. I'm sure that it did. And so you are living retired now, retired from the military, but a business owner
Yes.
and helping other people get financially free and build wealth. That in itself is a testimony itself. But I want you to talk to our audience. Of course, everybody is interested in how did she pay off the debt? How did she do it? And so, of course, I want you to talk to our listening audience about what it was like paying off that amount of debt. What were some key things that you had to do? And first of all, what was the impetus? I mean, did you just get angry at somebody one day and say, look, what was the impetus for you paying off that debt? And what were the key things that you did to accomplish that and achieve that?
Well, I think the turning point for me started when I hit my 10-year mark in the Marine Corps. So around July of 2006, I just sat down, got my little composition journal, and I just wrote down what was my financial goals. And one of those goals was to have no debt when I retired from the Marine Corps. So in order for me to have no debt, I had to identify what debt I have and then establish a plan to start to pay back what I borrowed. Being in the military, you get that comfortable lifestyle because you know your checks coming on the 1st and the 15th. So I need to understand that, hey, I have a certain amount of paychecks still left on active duty. How am I going to best utilize that resource so that I can reach that financial goal? But during that journey, because it was a journey,
I'm sure.
I had to sit down and do my monthly budget. I had to look at my credit report consistently because people have taken advantage of me before. But I know that looking at my credit report and making sure things were paid off, things were closed when I told them that they need to be closed. So I needed to make sure that I'm aware of what's on my credit report. So doing my budget, looking at my credit report, establishing a debt payoff plan, and then just doing that over and over and over again. For me, being in the military, I knew that failure was not an option.
Wait, I'm going to slow you down, Rachel, because you said so much in just the past 30 seconds of what you said. So first of all, you knew you were coming up on a life change. You knew you had a certain amount of years left, right? So you knew paychecks from Uncle Sam were going to stop at a certain time.
Yes.
And I think that's important to point out because often we wait too late to start planning for those changes that are going to come. And we don't realize that retirement year, the 65, the age 65 is going to come sooner than we think. So first of all, I think one of the key things you said was you recognized there was going to be a lifestyle change, that the checks were going to stop, and that woke you up. And I think that that's really, really important. And then you did some things, you said you did some things after you had that realization. I want everybody, I'm coming to the realization that that 65 is going to be here before, two shakes of it's going to be here. And so we have to really start thinking long-term and not think short-term. And then you said you started checking your credit consistently. You had a budget that you were working. Talk to the listening audience about ways that they can do that. I mean, I know a lot of people know how they can check their credit, but just talk to the listening audience about ways that they can do that consistently and it not cost them a lot.
Oh, definitely, of course. Well, right now, because of COVID-19, if you go to www.annualcreditreport.com, you can get access to your online credit reports once a week for free up until April of 2021. So after the April
once a week.
Once a week.
It used to be once. It used to be
a
once
year.
A year.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now that's good information. All right.
Yes, but because of COVID-19, you can look at it weekly because so many people are going through the process of unemployment. Bills aren't getting paid. They may have gotten some repossessions or not possibly evicted. So they need to know how that's impacting their credit report. So definitely annualcreditreport.com. Then on my phone, I also have an app, Experian app, and it shows you your Experian credit report. It shows you your Experian credit score. And then I also have the Credit Karma app. On Credit Karma, you'll have access to your Equifax credit report and your TransUnion credit report. And I'm just going to touch base just your credit report, because that score that you see on Credit Karma is not your actual FICO score. It's what they call a Vantage score, and then that differs from your actual FICO score. When I sat back and looked at it, it was about 15 to 38 points different or lower than what my actual FICO score was.
Okay.
So definitely those three sites right there, and you need to be cognizant of what's on your. I think that's where people in the African American community, we don't do enough of looking at our credit report, and we're expecting that when we go to the store and apply for credit cards or go to get an auto loan or mortgage lender, that they're just going to supply information, but we should have already known what that information is that's possibly going to impact us from getting approved for that credit card, getting approved from that auto loan, or getting approved for that mortgage. So first, knowing where you stand financially is going to help you on your journey to, even if it's just paying off your debt. So you just got to know, and your first stop is your credit report. Because on mine, my $179,625 did not include a mortgage. That was credit cards, that was auto loans, that was personal loans, that was debt consolidation. But I got comfortable with just making that minimum monthly payment.
Okay.
I got that comfortable, and out of that comfortable, they got that interest rate. And that's how they're getting us, is the interest.
That interest rate is stealing.
Yes, it is. From our future.
Yeah, the Bible calls it usury, but it's stealing. So now, just to make sure that we got it clear, you get TransUnion and Equifax from where?
From
which
Credit
site?
Karma.
From Credit Karma. Yeah. And then you have the Equifax, you have the TransUnion app?
No, the Experian app.
The Experian app. Okay. Yeah. All right. I want to make sure we got that clear for the listening audience. So make sure you know where to go for which of those three powerhouses,
yes.
For which score. Okay, great, wonderful. So you had an awakening. You saw a lifestyle change coming. You know, the checks were going to stop coming. So you decided you had to make some drastic changes. You started checking, your credit score. And then you said something about the budget. Is that right? You said you started working the budget. Talk to us about that.
So with doing a budget, it's more than just knowing what's coming out of your expenses. You have to first identify what your net income is. And being in the military, our income is usually consistent. You know what you're going to get paid on the 1st and the 15th. So when you know what you're going to get to what you're getting in your bank account, then you're able to establish a financial plan for that pay period, or if you get paid once a month for that month. So sitting down, knowing what bills you got to, because we're not going to get away from paying our electricity bill and our water bill, but then identifying what other bills like Netflix, people have Microsoft subscriptions, they have all of these subscriptions coming out of their income, all of these bills coming out. So I see a lot of people say, well, Rachel, I don't do a budget. I just swipe my card or I write a check. Well, if you don't do a budget, how are you going to have a financial plan? And that's the key, is having a financial plan so that you can save, you can invest, you can put money aside for your kids' college, you can put money aside for a vehicle for your kids. So you don't have to always go out there and borrow money. You can put it in your financial plan and save for what you want. So that financial plan is definitely important. If you work at Burger King, you still need a financial plan. If you're in the military, you need a financial plan. If you're not in the military, you need a financial plan. Everybody who receives some type of income needs a financial plan.
Now, does that include teenagers working at Burger King?
Yes, that includes teenagers, because most teenagers, all they want to do is spend. So you got to start teaching your kids and your teenagers that there's three concepts. You got to give, you got to save, and you got to spend. But most of them are just worried about that spend and getting the clothes, getting the shoes. But I've seen even my son as a teenager starting to invest, and getting him to invest at the age of 19, $125 a week. He's setting himself up to become a millionaire by the time he turns 40.
I want you to repeat that, please.
My 19-year-old son, who's saving $125 a week, and that's just the basic, just the bare minimum, just $125 a week. He's investing it, and he utilizes Edward Jones as his investment. And by the time he turns 40, he's going to be a millionaire.
That's really, really crucial. Um, that's really, really crucial. And I want our people to realize that. I really want our people to get that. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and everything I'm learning, I'm sharing with her. She's 16, and she wants to get her first job. And I said, when I grew up, I started working at 15. And I have two sisters, we all started working in our high school years. We had to help our mother pay a bill.
Mm,
I said, I don't want you to help me pay a bill. I want you to take that money and invest it.
yes.
I don't want you sewing into bills. I don't want you to sew into debt. I want you to take that money and I want you to start investing at 16. I want you to
Mm,
do that. And so what you just said is so, so, so crucial. And this is one of the ways that we can leave an inheritance.
yes.
We can help our children and our children's children to know how to build wealth from themselves, even if it's not coming from our own pocket. I said to somebody the other day, if I know what you are doing, if I have the information, I can do what you do. But the problem is, if we don't have the information, then we can't do what you're doing. And I think that what you just said is so, so phenomenal. What else? Is there anything else that you would share with the listening audience about your journey to paying off that $179,000?
Yes, even when I started in July 2006 with the Financial Journal, it wasn't until January of 2010 that I ran into a course called Financial Peace University, and that's with Dave Ramsey. So
Mm-hmm.
I took the course. At that time, it was 13 weeks, and it was free on base. And it was during that course, I knew that something has got to change. Something changed inside of me where I went from doing my college degree from information technology to business administration with a concentration of finance. So that click, it was a shift. And I'm glad I did not ignore that shift and and
Mm-hmm.
and just run from what God was equipping me to do, because that shift allowed me to go to college and get a college degree with zero student loan debt. The main reason why I joined the military was to get my degree. Didn't know what I wanted to get a degree in until I was almost about 12 years into the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
was able to utilize the tools that Dave Ramsey teaches in his course, the 7 baby steps. Finished with the paying off my debt in March 2015. But then I knew it was more than just Dave Ramsey. I knew it was other people. So I came across Shannon Dada. I came across Michelle Singletary. I came across people who looked like me and was
Mm-hmm.
empowering people to do better. We
Mm-hmm.
have to do better, because if you can't manage with what you're getting paid at a job that's paying you $24,000 a year, you won't be able to manage $48,000 a year. You won't be able to manage 60,000, because it starts with the mind. And that Financial Peace University, it opened my mind to so much more knowledge. So doing the 7 baby steps, create my own business and tailor it to how I know it's going to impact changes around the people that's connected to me. One of my first classes in South Carolina, my grandmother sat in on that class.
Wow.
And when she, at the end of the class, she said, Rachel, I learned some things that I've never heard of.
Wow.
So being able to hear that from your grandmother is God, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
That's something. That is really something. Okay. So you not only started your journey, but learned how to empower others, which I think is really, really important. Now, I want to ask you something. Um, you paid off the debt, $179,000 worth of debt, but you also went to school debt free.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to that. I wanted to recap that because this year, as I said, I was sharing with my daughter some of the things from Anthony O'Neill's Debt Free Degree,
Yes. Great
and
book.
a great book. If you don't have that book and you're listening, and you have a child that's about to go to college or that will go to college, or you're in college right now, get that book, because there are many ways that you can get a degree debt free. But like I said, if you don't have the information that other people have, you can't do what they do. But there are universities that are
Mhm.
debt free, whole universities that are debt free, that you never pay tuition for as long as you're accepted. And then, of course, the military is a way that people finance their degree. And that's what you did, Rachel.
Yes.
What people may not realize is that you not only were in the military, but you became a master sergeant. And there are not many women doing that. And there are not many people of color doing that. How did your life in the military, obviously you were driven and determined if you excelled to the level of master sergeant. How did that influence your discipline when it came to your finances?
Well, even in boot camp, they teach you the mission of the Marine Rifleman, and that's to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, and repel the enemy's assault by fire in close combat. So I knew that my enemy was debt. And then my enemy was my inner me, trying to keep me from becoming what God has created me to be. And that's a woman who's living her life financially and on purpose and showing others. So I knew that what my mission was to locate what's robbing me from my financial future, and close with by looking at my credit report, by doing my financial plans every month, by creating financial goals and destroying the enemy. And the enemy, again, sometimes it's going to be your family members, but being a master sergeant, I knew that failure was not going to be an option. I knew that I had to make sure that I obtain my goals, and not only obtain my goals, but pull others behind me that's on the same journey as I am. Because I don't want to leave anybody on the battlefield, and that battlefield can be dangerous if you're financially ill-equipped to handle it.
Now, you said they teach you, what did you say that they teach you first about the mission?
The mission of the Marine Rifleman, because in the military, especially the Marines, that everyone is a rifleman. So you got to be able to pick up that M16 and shoot it and kill people who are trying to kill you. So if people look at that in the concept of debt, and the concept of financial literacy, people are trying to kill you by the way of you paying them interest fees every month, late fees, non-sufficient funds fees, overdraft fees. Those are your enemy. It's your enemy. So when you're able to identify who your enemy is, you can start creating some things that's going to repel the enemy's assault. And you can repel the enemy's assault by putting credit freezes on your credit reports. You can repel the enemy's assault by establishing plans of, hey, I know this is how much I'm getting paid. I know this is how much going out. Everything else, I'm going to put aside for savings. So you're establishing some goals. But if you're not able to identify who the enemy is, and sometimes swiping that debit card, utilizing and depending on credit cards every month, and just, again, creating financial infidelity. And that's where these couples who are not on the same financial sheet of music, and they're cheating on each other and lying about it.
Well,
it happens all the time.
That's serious. That is a challenge, because often people marry someone who has a different financial language than them. Maybe somebody is just by nature a vault, and they like to keep money, they like to save it, and it gives them joy just to open their account and see thousands of dollars in savings. They might be married to somebody that it gives them joy to spend and meet a need and help somebody, and they don't care about, seeing large amounts in their savings account. Those things create conflict. What are some of the things that you counsel people or talk to people in your coaching when you're coaching couples? How do you help them get on the same page?
And getting them on the same page. I did a couples group about 3 years ago, and the first few sessions of us getting together, it was like, oh, are these people going to kill me? Because I had to ask them some hard questions, but I want them to also see, hey, there's other couples in this room right now that are going through things. They may not have the same amount of debt we have. They may not have the same amount of income, but we're all going through things together. And the big financial elephant in the room with couples is that they won't understand. And that's where the enemy can come in. As a couple, my husband won't understand, or my wife won't understand, or I'm going to pay all my bills. And then if something happens to me, my wife won't know what. So it's getting them on one page, showing that page, and being financially naked. Baby, this is what's on my credit report. Baby, this is what's on my credit report. Now, what are we going to do together to establish a plan a plan that's going to change our family. So you got to just have them both be financially naked. And a lot of people aren't ready and willing to do that.
Gotta be naked. That's so good. That's so good, Rachel. Even in the experiences that I've had in premarital counseling, just from the church side, you find that people really aren't always transparent, even when they're about to join their lives together, that they don't come out and lay things on the table. And that's really, really important.
Yes.
I used to, in the days when certain diseases were rampant, I used to tell people, look, get tested. I don't care
Yes.
how much you love the Lord. We weren't always saved.
Amen.
We weren't always saved. So get tested. And in the same way, I think financially, we have to uncover and be naked and reveal those things, as you said, like a credit report. You should know that before you come together with someone. And a lot of times when that doesn't happen, people get married and then there's shock and awe and
Yeah.
they're in trauma because of what they find out after the fact. I think that that's really, really important point that you make. Not only that, but you and I know that a household,
Foundation. Come
when
on
you
now.
talk about household and net worth, the coming together is really, really important because you optimally, you don't want to just leave a legacy by yourself. If you have a spouse, you want to be working together to leave a financial legacy. But we still see that the African American household, the average net worth is what, $17,000 is the average
Yeah.
net worth, while a Caucasian household, the average net worth is 170,000, so 10 times
Yeah.
that amount. I want to get your perspective on this. What do you think is missing from the financial literacy landscape in terms of those disparities, in terms of the African American community? What's missing? Because I'm finding that there's information out there. So where do you think the gap is? Why are we still 10 times behind?
What I think is missing, because we can't blame it on technology, because you have YouTube, you have Google. I'm just going to have to go back to the mindset.
Okay.
A lot of some people aren't ready to face what I've done. Their head is still in the sand. Rachel, I don't want to pull my credit report. Rachel, I don't want to do a budget, because once I know, then now I'm responsible for what I know.
Mm.
So when we get them to a point where they can start being responsible for their financial actions, then they're ready to start making the changes. Then they're ready to start saving money and paying off debt and establishing some financial goals. But I don't think a lot of people are being responsible. And I see
Yeah.
that even when I watch Judge Judy all the time. We have so many people in our community that's still putting things in our children's name and messing up their financial records before they're even of the age to start doing things on their own.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we got to get people in the African American community to start to face the music. Even if you've done things wrong in the past, what are you going to do now to start to make those changes? And you're going to have those uncomfortable conversations with your family members. No, I can't help. No, I can't be your crutch anymore because Rachel said, and I tell people all the time, tell them that Rachel said I can't give you any money. Rachel said, because I'm trying to reach some financial goals. So in the African American community, I've been to a lot of churches, and I don't think I've been received, because some of them, who is she to come tell me what to do? And it's not more as, and I pray every time I start to speak, I say, Lord, I pray that I decrease so that you can increase in me and they see you speaking through me, because it's more than just Rachel. If I die today, I still want people to budget their money. I still want people to do what they're supposed to do with their personal finances, because it's so personal. A lot of us just don't want to talk about it. We don't want to face the music. We don't want to face the fact that I don't know. And that's the first step of recovery, is being able to acknowledge that I have an issue managing my personal finances.
Yeah. I think that's really, really good that you talk. Yeah, we have to face the music, I think is the phrase that you use. And I think also in our community, a lot of times we end up in survival mode. We are stuck in survival mode. So we never lift up our head to really to get the bigger picture,
Yeah.
right? Because as long as we can make it that month, there's always more month than money. As long as we can make it that month, woo, thank you, Lord. And so we just keep going month to month, and we don't lift up our heads to have a long-term viewpoint. But even if people search the scriptures, they will see that some of the things that we do are actually anti-scripture.
Yes.
For example, co-signing. The scripture talks about don't co-sign for anybody. If you're a surety for somebody, go and release yourself, beg them, fight, whatever you got to do to free yourself from that surety, from that co-signing. Do it. All of the things that we do, putting money in under our mattresses, the things that we were historically taught to do, especially in the South, all of the things that we do, they're actually anti-scripture.
Yes.
The parable of the talents was, take my money to the bank. At least I would have gotten some interest. Get it from under your mattress.
Yes.
Get it out of your shoebox. And so we really have to retrain ourselves. And if we use the scripture, we can retrain ourselves. And it's a vicious cycle that the people who need the information the most fight it.
Yeah, because
and
even
so,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
But all of my time while I was in the Marine Corps, I was a single parent of 3 children. So I needed my family and then the community within the church to assist me in the times I needed childcare or whatever. But even the concept of being a single parent, I don't want anybody to use that as a crutch either, because even if your child support isn't consistent, your child still needs you to get up, go to work 2-3 jobs so that the household is taken care of. My children has never had lights turned off. We've never had water turned off because I know my kids were dependent on me. So when you can start to make the decisions that identify that your children are dependent on you, you'll start to make some better financial decisions. When I got married to an amazing Christian man, January of 2019. So even prior to us getting married, we sat down and did the credit reports, looked at the scores. We were financially naked. So even bringing that into our household, I knew that God, what you have for me is more than what I could do with the income that I'm receiving right now. It's more than just paying my tithes. Lord, I want you to help me manage that other 90% because I don't want to ride from Peter to PayPal. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So I had to make the decisions to do what I'm doing now.
Wow. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right. So one of the things that you pointed out is that the mentality has to change, that we have to face the music. So talk to us about that mentality. What is a wealth mentality and how does it differ from a poverty mentality in your perspective, in your opinion?
To me, I think a wealth mentality is you're identifying what's going to keep you or what's going to hinder you from building that wealth. And one of those things that we've already touched on is that debt. It's that lack of savings. It's not having financial goals. So once you can identify what's going to prevent you from building wealth, then you can start to see what's going to help me build wealth. And by helping you build wealth is doing your financial plan, is setting aside money each month. It's contributing to your retirement fund. It's having mutual funds and CDs and all of those other aspects of building wealth, because you want that wealth that you build to last, not just your generation, but for generations to come. Because in the Bible, it talks about how you're supposed to leave an inheritance to your children's children. And that part of leaving an inheritance is wealth. So if we're bound by so much debt, we can't leave an inheritance. We can't manage that wealth mindset of I'm trying to build wealth. If you can't identify that I can't see or fathom $1,000 just sitting in my account, then it's going to be hard for you to see in $10,000 and $20,000 and $30 sitting in an account where you're not going to get penalized if you need to pull that. So that mindset of building wealth, it takes time. It's not going to change overnight, but it can change paycheck to paycheck, meaning you're saving portions of your paycheck so that you can build wealth. It's not going to be easy, but it's long term. It's going to definitely be worth it because you're being consistent, you're making sacrifices, and then you're staying dedicated to your goal of building wealth.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I want to switch a little bit. I want to ask you this question because sometimes people don't make the connection. What's the connection between insurance
Mm.
and wealth management and the different types of insurance?
So insurance and wealth management, I learned years ago where your insurance, if one of your family members are the beneficiaries of your insurance policy, then that means that they're getting all of this money tax free. And then that's a way where you can channel down wealth through different generations. And I've seen people, they talk about the term life insurance and then the whole life insurance. But I found out that they've been using whole life so that they can build wealth and transfer it and then utilize that wealth, that the income that's in that whole life policy, to take money from that policy and go establish a business here, take life from that policy and go buy a house, pay yourself back. So it's understanding term life insurance and whole life insurance, but with your term, it's only for a specified term, 20-year, 30-year term. And then once that term is up, then you have no life insurance. But with the whole life insurance, you're insured for your whole life, and you're paying out usually a higher premium. So most people, they don't have either term or whole life. They're uninsured. And then they're uninsured and then now having to depend on GoFundMe or raising money to fish dinners, chicken dinners to bury their loved ones. But if you get out of that concept of I can pay $26, $45, or even $125 a month, and then somehow that's going to allow me to build some type of wealth.
Okay, so with whole life, we understand that it persists throughout the lifetime. When a family member or loved one is a beneficiary, that money comes to them tax-free. Is that right?
Tax-free, correct.
Tax-free. Are there other kinds of insurance that people should have that would help them to build wealth?
I can't think of any other ones at this moment to build wealth. No.
Okay. But the key there is you want the whole life. Is that right?
The key is to have insurance.
Okay.
And then understanding,
okay.
Yes, have insurance and then understanding what you're signing up for. Because you don't want to get an insurance policy and then you can't pay the monthly premium, but then you're leaving yourself vulnerable. And because the only thing guaranteed in life is death and taxes. We're going to die, so you want to make sure that your family is financially prepared in the event that you're dying, especially if they're depending on your income and you have that stay-at-home wife or that stay-at-home husband, and now the breadwinner has passed away. What are they going to do to survive? So that's a way that's going to be able to give them time to transition to, okay, our loved one has passed away. I already know what monthly bills that they were paying. We've already doing our monthly financial plan. So now that insurance money is here and it's not going to be blown away, because I've seen people blow insurance money and then now they're still suffering even more.
Money is mental.
Money is mental, and it's a tool.
I'm learning that is so true, because even, and that's why that to me underscores another reason why we have to begin to teach our children these things, is because why would you leave them the life insurance, leave them an inheritance, and they don't have the mindset and the habits that are necessary to maintain what you're leaving them.
Yes.
Right. If we don't teach them and start making them pay their times, even when they get $100 paycheck, start investing that $50, even when they get $100 paycheck. If we don't teach them those things, then we are working to leave them things that they're not going to be equipped to handle.
Yes.
And I think part of financial literacy is having the skills. It's not just a vocabulary, but financial literacy is having the skills to manage the wealth so that it's not blown. So that to me is really, really key.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Everything that you said was perfect, because if we're not preparing our family for our departure, then we're doing them a disservice. I've seen it where the spouse says, my wife, all she does is spend, and then now you're dead. you're not helping her at all, or you're not helping him at all. So you have to sit down and have the tough conversations now, because death is imminent. We never know when it's going to happen. We just know that it's going to happen. And the Bible teaches us to be absent from the body, to be present with the Lord. But you don't want to leave your presence with your family member in shambles because they're not financially prepared. So you have to start teaching them now about money management. You got to start teaching them why it's important to set money aside, because you don't want your family to suffer while you're gone.
That's so true. Okay. Great, 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 wonderful. I just so enjoyed this conversation. I do have some more questions for you.
Okay.
I want to ask you just a few lightning round questions, quick questions. What book have you read in the last 6 months to a year that you would recommend to those seeking financial freedom?
I would recommend the 21-Day Financial Fast by Michelle Singletary. She's a phenomenal woman. I try to do this fast at least 3 to 4 times a year, and you can do this fast with a group of your close friends, and you're going to make some changes in your life that you will never think possible.
So 21-Day Financial Fast by
Michelle
okay.
Singletary.
Okay. All right. So can you give us a little bit of insight into what you do during those 21 days?
Of course, you're going to have a financial journal. You're going to be doing a budget. She's going to have you look at your credit report. She's going to have you set some financial goals. And then at the end, the 21st day, she's going to have you now think of some other people that you can now go through this 21-day financial fast with.
Okay, wonderful. Next question. What leader in your industry is currently inspiring you and why?
Right now, it's going to be Rob Wilson.
All right, tell us why.
Rob Wilson has this amazing course. We started last night. It's an 8-week course, and he's definitely open. Last night was phenomenal. I'm glad you were on last night, but
yep.
You're opening your mind to some amazing financial things that you have never thought about in your life. He's out of Atlanta, Georgia. If you go to I Am Rob Wilson, you will see all that he's working on. But that course, I'm just so glad I'm participating in that course this time.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Rob has books as well. We shared those, yes. I think last week on the podcast. Absolutely. All right. So then tell the listening audience, last question, tell the listening audience where they can find out more about you and personal financial change and all of what you're doing.
You can go to www.personalfinancialchange.com, or you can follow me on Facebook, Personal Financial Change, my business page. And you're going to see the classes that we're able. Last week, we just did a credit report basics class, and it was phenomenal. It just imparting information into my the people that were in the session. And then next week with the city, we're doing a money management seminar. So the classes will be available on Eventbrite. I teamed up with this amazing nonprofit that's now allowing people to go through the classes free. So again, you never know what's going to happen. But I love the word free. But again, you just got to follow me.
All right. Well, Rachel, it has been a pleasure to have you on. So encouraged by you, so motivated by you paying off that $179,000 worth of debt, and just all that you are doing to equip others to also be free. Thank you for the work you're doing. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Those of you that are listening, make sure that you support the podcast. You're getting information that you would otherwise have to pay for. You're getting information that's going to help you to have wealth and take financial dominion. Thank you for all of you that have joined us on Facebook Live. And thank you to all of you that will listen to this replay later on. All right. God bless everybody. We'll be back next week. Wednesday at 1 p.m. So make your plans to tune in. God bless everybody. And thanks for joining. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thank you for having me, Pastor.
You're welcome.